So, had a lot of rain of late up here, up in Toowoomba. Actually had a lot of rain everywhere in the east coast of Australia. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where you get to summer and you get a lot of storms come through. This has been rain, so it's been quite pleasant. Been very good actually. Really enjoy having that rain. And as you can see, everything is very green. Lots of little ducks and things. Hello, duck. All sorts of critters out because it's just full of life. Everything's sprung back to life. Woof. Yes, because it's been so wet and so horribly hot, I haven't been out on the Spyder for probably a month or so. So it's been a little bit interesting getting back on this morning. Sort of feels a little bit weird, first time to get back on after a month off. But yeah, the Spyder needs a bit of a run. You should run them fairly regularly. Sort of leads me into what I want to chat about today, because I've helped a few mates this year, being 2024. I've helped a heap of people get into second-hand Spyders, and some people sell some and all sorts of stuff like that. But one of the things is that if you're looking at buying, we're going to go selling first. If you're looking to sell your Spyder, think about why it is that you're selling it. And the answer to that question for everyone is exactly the same. It is now access to your needs. So therefore, think about how long it's going to take you to sell it at the price that you ask. Now, last year I had a mate who sold his and he listed it for 28. I won't go into who he is or what it was, but he listed it for 28. He got an offer not long after that for 25 and he went, nah, not taking 25. I want 28, I'm getting 28. My opinion at the time was, mate, take the 25. It's not a bad offer. I thought he had it overpriced at 28, but I didn't want to tell him that because that's his prerogative to set his price. So anyway, he set it at 28. So I had it off for 25, didn't take it. And about 9 months later, maybe a year later, he finally sold it at 21. If he'd have taken the 25, he would have had $4,000 extra in his pocket, and he could have done whatever he wanted with that $4,000. He was getting out of riding, so he needed to get rid of it. But he should have taken the early offer. Sometimes we look at things that we're selling second hand, and we think, oh yeah, I paid 30 for it new. I want my money back. No, it's no longer. It's access to your needs. That's the first thing you should look at is, okay, what price can I get that's reasonable, that'll get it moving quick, get that money in my pocket and get me on the way. If you're prepared to wait and take the value that you really want and you think you will get that value, great, wait, but you will wait. I'm looking at one at the moment. It's a second-hand F3 Limited 2016, so it's one of the ones without the top box, and they've got 18 on it. Now, I wouldn't touch it for 18 because it's got 43,000 kilometres on it, but for $16,000 I'd take it. And they've had it sitting there now for a number of months, and they probably paid overs for it and want their money back because they haven't had it long. But once again, it's excess or surplus to your needs. Get rid of it. Sell it at a price that'll get rid of it, get the money in your pocket, move on, cut your losses. Now when you're buying, apply the same principle. Look around and see what they've sold for. Get the advice of someone who's been watching the market. And if you're buying a second-hand one, that's the first thing you should look at is, what's your budget? What style do you want? Do you want an F3? Do you want an RT? Which one of the bikes do you want it for? What do you want it for? If it's just a day ride, so lots of day rides like I'm doing today, then yeah, an F3S or even an F3 Limited, quite good for that. The RT Limited that I'm on is not great for just day rides. You can do it, but if you're doing twisty stuff, they're not great for it. They're a big bus. They're meant to tour, which is what I do. A couple of times a year I do some really bigger tours, and that's why I went to it. If I had a bigger shed, which is why I'm looking at the F3 Limited down the track, was that, you know, I would have an F3S or a Limited I could put my chair on the back of for day rides, but it's it's not feasible at the moment. My shed's only big enough to hold one Spyder and my trailers, so you know, that's part of the get up. But also start looking at things like, when you're getting it, you know, has it been shedded? Has it been serviced? Has it been ridden? There's no use buying a 2010 two-cylinder, which I'd stay away from the two cylinders, by the way, but I'll pick that in a tick. But I would definitely be looking at, okay, if I'm looking at buying a 2010 motorcycle and it's got 9,000 kilometres on it, I'm going, it hasn't been ridden enough. Every single one of those seals inside that thing are not going to be getting enough oil through them. The oil's going to be pretty yuck when you get it anyway. Everything's sat for ages, so all the tyres are pretty ordinary, because it wouldn't have worn out a set of back tyres yet, or it shouldn't have at 10,000 Ks, so it's going to be pretty ordinary. So you should be looking at something that's done around about minimum 5,000 Ks for its age. So what I'm saying there is, if you're looking at a 2020 motorcycle, it should have 40,000 kilometres on it, which is what this one's got on it. It's a 2020, and it's got just over 40 on it at the moment. It's got high 40s. But when I bought it, it was averaging just over 5,000 kilometres a year. So that's what you should be looking at, which is what I was getting 23, and I had 28, so I had well over that. So 23, yeah, late 23 that I got it. So, you know, and I've knocked up 15,000 Ks on it this year. So I think the girls bought it in late 20, so you know, it was doing reasonable Ks. Then look at, has it been serviced regularly and serviced properly? Not just someone doing their own stuff and, you know, not doing it real well, but has it been serviced regularly by a good service tech? Now this one didn't have a good service tech, I know that, because I know where they got it serviced, but it was enough that I knew that it had at least regular servicing stuff, oils and things like that have been changed, and I went over the bike with a fine-tooth comb when I got it and made sure that all the screws that were on it were tight, because I knew where they'd been, and yeah, there was some missing and some loose, and tightened all those up. So that's the sort of thing that you want to know about, is doing that sort of thing. Then look at, where's it been parked? Has it been parked under cover? Has it been parked in a shed? Or has it been parked outside with cover or no cover? So there was one I looked at yesterday from up North Queensland, which had, you know, 40,000 kilometres on it, 2016 RT Limited. Looked nice bike, it was all shiny on the Duco. And then I looked at the little switch for the hazard lights, and instead of being a shiny red, it was a dull grey, sort of grey orangey colour. In other words, this thing's been parked outside. Then I had it, because I'm looking at it online, so then I zoomed in on the seats, and yeah, sure enough, the seats were split, and yeah, so it's had an outside life. So straight away, up, not touching that. Engine wise, you know, not too bad, but yeah, it's been sitting outside for ages, so that means that it'll get corrosion up underneath, it'll have moisture through bits that shouldn't have moisture, the seats will be cracked and crittered and all sorts of stuff, and all your wiring will be had a bit of fun if there's any critters about. So it was one that I avoided. So what would I recommend to buy if I was buying a second-hand Spyder now? So what I would look at is, I would look at getting myself a 1330. I would put a line, unless your budget is really, really skinny, I would put a line through the 990s. If your budget's really skinny, just get the best 990 that you can get for your money. But if your budget's a little bit more, I'd be looking at anything with a 1330, and one that's had a good service life. There's a woman in Tasmania that apparently has just had her 200,000 kilometre service on her 2015 F3S. So in other words, these things will do a lot of Ks if you look after them. She has. She's had it regularly serviced at the same place, and I know these guys because we stopped them there on our Tassie trip, and they're pretty good crew. So she's well looked after bike, and that's the other thing is try and find something that either you or your mates know the history of. So I knew the full history of this one. Like most of the Ks of this bike when I bought it second hand had been done with me either leading it or at least in the group with it. Not all of the Ks, but most of them. So I knew the bike pretty well. So that's another thing, is try and find one that your mates know pretty well and know the history of. So that one that's for sale at the moment in Brisbane, and I'll put a picture up if I can get one, it's for sale at a bit more than it should be because the woman paid too much for it. But I know the history of it because the person that owned the forum is on our forum pages, and so I know they've looked after it, and I know this person that's got it now hasn't had it for too long. So there's your history stuff of it's just that it's overpriced. So there's part of it. So 1330, whatever. Then you got to figure out what's my riding style. Now, if you're just a day rider and want a bit of a sporty feel to it, F3S every day of the week. I've had one. They are fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Handle way better than the RT. Easier to service because you don't have to take as many panels off. Reasonably comfy. It'd be nice to have a bit more comfy seat on them. I had an RT limited seat on my F3S, but they're pretty comfy just for day rides. I put a RT limited seat on it because I rode the thing to Tassie and back. So that's what you want to look at there if you're just doing day rides, and you're not storing a heap of gear because you're not travelling with it. You don't need a little bit of storage. You can put a box on the back if you need to. But they're fantastic for that sort of thing. If you're doing a lot of touring like I do, where I do a couple of decent sized tours a year, the RT Limited is fantastic. If you can afford the 2020 Plus, get one. They're way better than the 1330s from 2014 through to 2019. They're a nice bike, don't get me wrong, they're a nice bike. They really look nice and they handle pretty well and go pretty well. They've got the same engine and all that sort of thing. But the 2020 is just a little bit more comfortable, has a bit more storage on it, handles a little bit better stock, but I'd also look at something there which I'll get to a bit later, which is the shocks. They handle pretty well. So the 2020s, if you can afford it, 2020 or newer. If you can't afford that, in the 2020s at the moment, you can pick up anywhere from 25,000 to 32,000, depending on the condition of the bike and what sort of accessories it's got on it. Now, accessories, don't pay extra for things that are like lights and flashy little things and things like that. Accessories that are helpful accessories, things like GPS, comfort items, water bottle holders if you're buying an F3 on the side. You want things like lambswool covers for the seat because it's kept the seat in good nick. You want sway bars, you want shocks, those types of things. You don't want things that make it look blingy and flashy and things like lights. Stay away from that, or don't pay extra for those. Go, yep, mate, well done. I'll probably remove most of those anyway, because most of the time they're just a pain in the butt. I know the ones that are on this are a pain in the butt. The two side indicators there, I've got to cut the wires on them pretty soon because they're starting to just sort of have a bit of a flash to them as I'm riding along instead of being steady because the LEDs have failed. Why? Because Australia's bloody hot compared to the States where they're made for. So, that's part of it. So, yeah, don't pay extra for your accessories. 1330. Look for the regular servicings. The other thing to look for on it is tyres. What tyres have they got on it? And be aware of those. So I'm a Kenda guy, and it doesn't mean that that's right or wrong. That's just me. I'm a Kenda guy. I've got a canine on the back of this, and it's worn really well so far. I thought it would have had to be just about up for replacement now. With 15 odd thousand, actually probably more than that, nearly 20,000 in that back, probably 18,000 Ks in this back tyre. and it's still got a good 5,000 k's in it, so 23,000 k's, pretty good out of a rear tyre on a motorcycle. And the fronts are the genuine ones that came with it, and they've still got a bit of wear left on them, and they're hanging on pretty well for me. You know, I don't ride like a complete and utter lunatic most of the time, so I don't really need that, and it's handled pretty well in most conditions, so I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, look at the tyres that are on it. How old are the tyres on it? Are they over 5 years old? Because you know, over 5 years old, you're starting to think, well, are they going to start cracking on me because they've been sitting there for so long, or are they, you know, still in fairly new nick? So look at the tyres. Check the shock absorbers on these things, because one of the big failings on the Spyder is the shocks. So not long after I got this 2020, the rear shock failed on me. Around about 30,000 k's, which is, yeah, it's not unusual for a rear shock on a Spyder. So I've now put a Wilbur on it. Can't cover. Just get angle on. Okay. So yeah, it's look for the rear shocks. Look at the fronts as well. Give them a bit of a push down. See what they're like. So the fronts on this at, you know, high 40,000 kilometres. I think I'm around about 47, I think 47, 48 on this now. They're going to need changing pretty soon. So, you know, there's a big expense, because you're looking about 1,800 for a rear shock, like a decent one, not replacing the originals, and probably about 1,000, probably like 1,100 bucks Australian to replace the fronts with anything half decent, which a wider says. If it's got a sway bar, bonus. As in, if it's got an aftermarket one. Doesn't matter whether you've got the rabbit one, which I have had previously on 2 of my Spyders, but I don't have anything on this one, but I'm going to get something soon. So if you haven't got a sway bar on it, that's something to really consider, but also think about upgrading your shocks to go with that. Some of your second-hand F3Ss that come with the Fox Podium shocks, or I know that there's a couple of RTs where people have put Fox Podiums on them. They're a great shock. I was quite impressed with how good that shock was when I combined it with my Rabbit sway bar. There's a video on that that I've got in amongst all my videos. But yeah, it's got a sway bar, bonus. So that's some of the things to look at there. Kilometres, look, kilometres are depending on how it's been looked after. You can have too little and it can have too many. So over 80,000 kilometres, I wouldn't touch it unless it's really, really cheap, and then you'd consider it, but look at the service history. So I know that my original RT, which is a 2015, it sold recently with 85,000 kilometres on it, but should still be in pretty good condition, because I know that it had lots of servicing, so I got all the servicings done that it needed throughout time. It was well looked after, and the guy that had it after me sold it fairly quickly to someone who had it serviced regularly, so I know that it was in pretty good condition at 80,000 k's. There's another red one for sale in Brisbane that had 80,000 k's in it. Once again, regularly serviced, people won't touch it. It's got a little bit much on it, but once it comes down that RT, a little bit price, it'll be worthwhile buying as a cheaper one. But if you can get one with somewhere around about the 40,000 kilometres on it, and it's about anywhere between 4 and 6 years old, bonus, absolute bonus. That's what you're looking for. Something about that 40 to 45,000 kilometres, which is what this red F3's got. It's got 43,000 kilometres, and it's a 2016, so it's 8 years old. So it's good. It's been well looked after. So that's what you're looking for, that type of bike. So that's where I'd be heading if I was looking at the second-hand market. Now, of course, I've mentioned the RT for touring, the F3 for day rides, and you go, hang on, what about the F3 Limited? Well, if you do a bit of both, there's your answer. Good for day rides, reasonable for touring, reasonable for day rides. As my brother would like to say, it's neither your ass nor your elbow. It's good at what it does. It's not great as a full-on ride-it hard bike. It's not great as a tourer, but it's okay. It's passable for all those. So it's a bit of an all-rounder. but it's not great for what you might want to do. So if you're doing high kilometres, RT limited. You're doing day rides where you want to get into the twisties and that sort of stuff, get your F3S. If you're doing a bit of both, your F3 limited is probably your answer. But once again, check things on your RT limiteds and your F3 limiteds. Check your airbags. Make sure they're working, and get up underneath and shine a torch and have a look. See whether the airbag is fully inflated. Put some extra weight on it. See that it kicks in if it's got a pump on it, and not just a valve to pump it up like some of them have got. Some of the F3s has just got a valve on them to pump them up, and no motor on them. So look for those things. Make sure they're working and they're in good condition. Tow bars, that's up to you. I've had both a frame mount and a swing arm mount, and it depends what your trailer is and what weight you've got on your trailer. So I don't have a huge amount of weight in my trailer, and it's a BRP trailer, so it's made for the Spyder. So it handles the weight that I put in it quite comfortably. Everything seems to hold on okay, and I don't ride on super smooth roads all the time, so I'm okay with the swing arm one. For me it works, but I've also had a frame mount one that I had because my wheelchair rack, which was the way it was built, didn't like the swing arm type, and it vibrated to death, so I got it redone and put it onto a frame mount one. Can't use that rack anymore with the 2020 like I could with the 2015 RT, because the 2020's box sticks out a lot further. So yeah, that's some of the tips that I can give you for buying a used one. But one of the most important things is try and find someone that's fairly trustworthy and knows what they're looking for, and is not scared to say to you, mate, don't touch that with a barge pole. So there's a couple of bikes that my mates were looking at, and I went, nah, go the other way, mate. Because I had a mate who was on an older RS or RSS. Might have been RS, because one of the early ones. Nice looking bike, but super uncomfortable for longer trips and super uncomfortable for his wife on the back. So we got him into 2017 RT Limited that had a sway bar, and it's been really good. We just got to put a couple of extra things on there because he wants some navigation, so we're going to put some of that on there soon. But other than that, it's brilliant, just brilliant for him. Alright, so if you're looking, happy shopping, and enjoy your Spyder. That's the most important thing. Ride it. It puts a big smile on your dial. Hope you've enjoyed the scenery. It's been quite nice out here. Nice cornfield. Alright folks, have a great one. I'm off for a bit of a ride.